Hi, everyone, and welcome to the You Will Be Okay podcast. I have a very important message for you today, and that is if someone doesn't want you, you should never have to plead your case and try to convince them otherwise, okay? Story time. Let me tell you about the time a guy dumped me after a few dates, and I spent almost a year trying to get him to love me. We'll call him Kevin, okay? That's what he has come to be known as. Kevin, the damage case. He's probably someone I'll talk about a lot on this podcast because he is just so representative of the classic emotionally avoidant, emotionally damaged man who also happens to be super tall and super good looking and super irresistible. So he and I had a bunch of mutual friends, and one of them set us up. And after a string of painfully awkward and awful dates, I was so excited to go out with someone that actually got me a little fluttery. It had been so long since I felt those flutters, and it was a good feeling. It was nice to finally be excited about a guy. And the dates were great, at least in my mind. They were great. He was charming. He was charismatic. He was fun. He was over 6 feet tall, and he was just really sexy. And just as I was getting swept away in the thoughts of what could be and where this would go, he called me one night and he said he didn't think that it would work out between us and we should stay friends because we already had so many mutual friends. And my jaw hit the floor. What? Like, how can this be? This can't be right. There's a mistake. There's a glitch in the system. I can fix this. This is fixable. So about 2 months later, there was a party that I knew he was going to be at. So obviously I made sure to show up looking amazing. And I went to the party with friends and I was having a great time and I was doing my absolute best to pretend that I didn't even notice that Kevin was in the room. And of course his eyes found mine and we floated toward one another and the flirty banter ensued. And the night ended with some passionate making out. And I thought, mission accomplished. I fixed it. Like now he sees he made a terrible mistake. We are back on track. Amazing. Wonderful. But no. I didn't hear from him. After that. Nothing. Silence. Not one word. And I didn't understand. Like, what went wrong here? What did I do wrong? This pattern would repeat itself many times. Like weeks or months would go by. We would run into each other. Something would happen, I would get my hopes up, and then nothing. I knew he had some commitment issues, so I reasoned that maybe he just likes me too much. That has to be it. That's what it is with guys with commitment issues, right? He just likes me so much, and he's so scared of his feelings, and that must be it. He knows we're perfect for one another, and it's scaring him, and I just need to help him feel less afraid. So he and I did share a deep connection. It wasn't just a physical thing, but he just didn't want to be with me. And I just couldn't accept that. I couldn't accept it. I didn't want to accept it. And then I hit a breaking point. It was around my birthday in February, Aquarius girly. So after a night out with friends, a bunch of people came back to my apartment for leftover cake and vodka, and somehow he ended up there too. Like, he didn't come out with us on my birthday. I don't even know how he knew where we were, but he stumbled through the doors drunk as a skunk. And of course, he tried to make a move because, yeah, that is how it always went. But this time I didn't give in. This time I was like, I have self-respect now. I am not going to mess around with you. And instead, me and my self-respect spent the rest of the night taking care of him. Like, the whole night. I had all these people in my apartment. It was my birthday, and I'm taking care of this drunk boy in my bed. No, he wasn't in my bed. I put him in my roommate's bed because I was like, no. Can't go to my bed. That's where the bad decisions are made. So I thought maybe this would get him to see. Maybe now it would register. But no, I didn't hear from him after that. Not even a thank you, a thank you text for taking care of him. Like nothing. And I just felt like a fool. I felt like such an idiot, but I still couldn't let it go. And if I can't let go, in my mind, it must mean that there's something there that's worth hanging on to, right? So time goes on. We have yet another run-in at a friend's birthday party and another makeout session, but I did not let him come upstairs. Did not let him come upstairs this time. And it was another week of me feeling crushed that I wasn't hearing from him. And it was so embarrassing at this point. Like, first of all, bear in mind, I was a relationship writer and coach. Like, I was helping women gain self-respect, gain self-esteem, and I was really good at it. But then I was starting to really feel like a fraud because I couldn't get it together in my own life. I was making such bad decisions, and I knew that. I knew that I was breaking all the advice that I give. Advice that's so helpful to so many women, but I just couldn't tear myself away. I just liked him so much. So more months roll on, and now we're in the summertime. And so I was in the Hamptons with some friends for the 4th of July weekend, and he was there too. And I resolved to not do anything stupid. I resolved I'm going to move on. I am better than this. And while we're there, his eyes were always on me. Like every time I was talking to another guy, I could feel his eyes burning through me, angry and indignant. But why? I didn't get it. Why? Kevin, can't you see? Like he could have me if he wanted. Didn't he know that? And he did know that. But he still didn't want to do anything about it. And it just felt so ridiculous and unfair. And I just didn't get it. Like finally, after all I had been through in my dating years, I found someone that I really liked. And it just didn't make any sense to me. I knew he was attracted to me. I knew we connected. And I also knew that he had major, major commitment issues. Like, this wasn't just a me thing. This was a him thing. We'll talk about that more later. So by this point, we were at a barbecue, and it was the last day of a long weekend, and I am just sad and staring, and he's sad and staring. And his friend comes up to me to try to cheer me up. And I ask her, like, why is he always staring at me? And she's like, well, Sabrina, he really likes you. We all know that. We all know he really likes you. And suddenly I was ecstatic. Like, what? He really likes me? He does? He does? Like, how do you know? Did he tell you? And she's like, I just know. We all know. But Sabrina, what's the point? He's not doing anything about it. He has commitment issues. He has deep, deep commitment issues. And then it hit me. I had been chasing after his feelings. I had been trying so hard to get him to love me. But the truth was, I didn't really love myself. I didn't really have a sense of worth. I thought, and I made the mistake so many others make, I thought if I could get this tall, charming, in-demand man to want me, then it would mean something. Then I would be okay. And that's all we want at the end of the day, to feel okay. But it doesn't work like that. That is not where self-worth comes from. Even if he had wanted to give it a shot and be with me, I would have found something new to chase. A new title, a new milestone, another compliment, new ways for him to validate me. It would be an endless hamster wheel, a road to nowhere. I spent a long time thinking about Kevin and his issues and reading about avoidant attachment styles and men who can't commit. I even got this book called Men Who Can't Love, all about how like certain men are so commitment phobic. It's like people who are afraid of heights. I'm personally terrified of heights. And I felt bad for him. I'm like, oh my gosh, like my phobia of heights is like his phobia of commitment. And sure, maybe a lot of this was true of him, but it was also true that I couldn't fix him and I couldn't heal him, nor should anyone have that job in a romantic relationship. It is not our job to fix or heal anyone. That's why there are therapists and there are coaches and there are so many means through which someone can heal. But a relationship partner is not there for that. They can encourage you, they can support you, but no one can fix someone else. and you can't want it more than he does. And there was also just the fact that he didn't want to date me, okay? Like, aside from all his issues, he just didn't want to date me. He wanted to sleep with me. He liked to hang out with me when we saw each other. He never texted me in between. I mean, this situation wasn't even a situationship. It wasn't. It's like the step below that. I don't even know if we have a name for it, for what it was. And I felt so foolish, but I'm sure if you're listening to this episode, you can relate to that. You can relate to that feeling. But at the time, this reality was too painful. Again, because at that point in time, I didn't have a healthy sense of worth to fall back on. I didn't want to accept reality as it was. So I created a new reality and I told myself a new story. Was he kind of a selfish jerk? Yes. But was I also kind of a naive idiot who was the architect of my own misery for most of this relationships, not even situationship? Also, yes. The moral of the story is this. If he doesn't want you, don't try to talk him out of it. Don't try to seduce him out of it. Don't try to have other people talk him out of it. And don't try to win him over by showing him just how great you are. You think maybe if he sees you one more time looking amazing, maybe if you wear that second skin dress, or maybe if you have one more deep conversation about your hopes and your fears, maybe if you could get him to see what a wonderful girlfriend you would be, maybe if you could help him heal from whatever it is he needs to heal from, his parents' painful divorce or the girl who broke his heart, maybe then it will all work out. Let me get some water. But my question is, do you really want to have to work this hard? Do you really want to put in all this effort to get someone to see your worth? The right guy for you will not need any convincing. In fact, if a man really likes you, you'll have an almost impossible time talking him out of it. I remember early on in my relationship with my husband, not super early on. We were like pretty deep into it, but I had fears. I had fears come up because of all my past experiences. And I remember my husband saying to me, Sabrina, there is nothing you could do that would make me stop loving you. Like, he's like, you would have to basically stab me in the chest. And even then, I'd probably still forgive you and love you. And that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. It is so hard to convince the right man for you not to want you. It's an impossible feat. It really is. So if someone doesn't want you, if he doesn't want you, if she doesn't want you, I know I mostly speak to women and I know that men listen too, so you're included in this. Just let go. Let go. Let go of the fact that you shared a connection. There are billions of people in this world, and I promise you can connect deeply to so many others. Let go of how amazing the chemistry was. A lot of the time, the flame that burns brightest dies fastest. Also, it's usually his lack of feelings for you that make you feel so much more intensely for him. Let go of what could have been. Stop fantasizing about the potential of what could have been. Don't think about the past and all those special moments you shared. Don't think about the future and how great it could all be, if only. Look at the present. If he doesn't want to be with you right now, accept that as your reality, as your only reality. And don't just accept it. Embrace it. Look at this as a good thing. Be grateful that he realized you're not right for each other early on, because it spared you from wasting more time, from getting even deeper. And it freed you to meet a man who is actually right for you. So in truth, I am so grateful that Kevin had so much resistance towards dating me. I mean, he never even had a concrete reason. He was just like, it's just a feeling. I just feel like it wouldn't work out. And I'm glad that his gut, or maybe it was his attachment style, or maybe it was his damage, who knows? I'm so thankful that all that resistance was put up, because in looking back, he wasn't the right guy for me at all. at all. And the relationship would have been a disaster, and it would have ravaged whatever scraps of self-esteem I even still possessed at that time. And I'm most grateful to him because he made me realize what I was lacking within. He's the one that really shook me and woke me up. It wasn't even a real relationship. Honestly, these situationships, and again, I'm a step below situationship with Kevin, they can be so much more painful. They really can, than an actual breakup. I really believe they are so much more painful than the end of a long-term relationship, because it's the death of potential, but also because when we latch onto someone that we don't even really know that well, a lot of the time it's a reflection of what's missing within ourselves. A lot of the time we're not really in love, we're just triggered. They're triggering something within us. And with Kevin, he was triggering my long-standing feelings, beliefs of not being good enough, of not being chosen, of not being worthy. And instead of dealing with that, I spent almost a year chasing after him, trying to get him to love me. And it shook me so hard because by this point in my life, it wasn't cute anymore. It wasn't cute anymore. I was 29. I wanted to get married. I always wanted 4 kids. So I'm doing the math in my head about when I need to meet someone, and I have to have enough time to get those 4 kids in before the clock runs out. And I was wasting my time in the most spectacular fashion. I mean, it doesn't get more wasteful than that. Chasing after a guy who was so clearly emotionally unavailable, was not even leading me on. I was leading myself on with this. Everything about that situation was so straightforward. He was so straightforward. He was just attracted to me, but didn't want to date me. And I saw that, and that's what his behavior indicated. Everything aligned. I just didn't want to accept it. And I realized that the problem wasn't him. I mean, we can do that. It's very easy to do that. It's very easy to say that all men are jerks, all men are commitment phobes, all men suck, dating in New York is impossible. It's very easy to do all of that. And I did that for a very long time. But that wasn't what was going on here. What was going on here was I needed to face myself. I needed to look at what was lacking within. And I needed to face that void, that ugly, ugly void that I did not want to fall into. I was so scared if I fell into that void, I would never find my way out. I had to go in there and see, what is it that I'm outsourcing onto Kevin? What is it that I'm trying to get from this person? What hole is he plugging up, and how can I fulfill it myself? And once I saw the problem, I was able to actually work to correct it. As Dr. Phil says, you can't change what you don't acknowledge. And I worked hard. I dug deep, and I really got to the root of so many of my issues and why I felt so unworthy of love. Now, this was a culmination of a lot of work I'd already done on myself. I mean, I'd done a lot. Therapy and IFS therapy and body energy healing and all the things. And all of that helped to a degree. But the problem was that I wasn't implementing. It's so easy to learn things, but when your default mode has been so strongly programmed, I mean, all of us have a default mode that's just the main way that we operate in the world, right? Like, we have this mode. We self-sabotage, or we run from relationships, or we chase after broken men and try to fix them. We all have a default of our limiting beliefs, the things that we feel about ourselves. I'm unworthy. I'm not good enough. It might not always be an active thought. It might not always be conscious, but it lives in the subconscious and it guides our behavior. And the subconscious mind is always looking to prove itself right. And time again, I went for guys like Kevin because deep down I felt so unworthy. And I think there is, on one hand, there's a mechanism that tries to win this person over and we think then I'll be worthy. On the other, it's self-fulfilling because that's the way we feel and that's how we navigate through the world. And we choose partners who validate that belief. And once I realized what was happening and I really saw it in all its ugliness, I really threw myself into working through it. I was like, that is enough. I've spent so long trying to work on myself. Now I'm going to implement. Now I'm going to become the person I want to be. I do not want to be this girl who chased after a guy who dumped her after a few dates. This is not me. I'm better than that. And I did so much work. I had that infamous summer of me. Should we do a whole episode on that? Please leave comments, leave reviews. Just let me know. And soon enough, I felt better and I felt more confident than I ever had in my entire life. I mean, if I could bottle up a feeling in time, it would be that. Like how I was feeling at that point in time when I had really worked through my nonsense and it really developed like self-respect. And I had self-respect because I had developed self-love and self-worth. And I just radiated a shine that was magnetic to all. And at this point in my life, and not to sound conceited, but men were lining up to date me and women were lining up to be friends with me. I was just vibrating on such a high level. And the guys who wanted to date me were guys that previously were on the fence about me or uninterested in me. And the only thing that changed was me on the inside. I mean, granted, I did look good on the outside. You know, I was working out a ton. I was in great shape. But it comes from within and it radiates outward. I see this with my clients all the time. The ones who are so positive, have such an amazing energy, are super attractors. And there's others who are so conventionally beautiful. In every, like, just, you know, check all the boxes for conventional beauty standards. And they are complete people repellers because of how they feel about themselves and what they're radiating and what they're projecting out. So not long after my metamorphosis was complete, I started dating the man who would eventually become my husband. And sometimes what feels like the worst thing to happen to us can pave the way for the best things. But you will never, ever get what you want by settling for what you don't want. Who knows how much longer I could have been playing that cat and mouse game with Kevin, the damage case. And he's still single. He's still single. He actually, long after I got married, he dated a bunch of friends of mine and they all asked me first. They're like, you know, because he was still single. He'd been through every woman on the island of Manhattan by this point. You know, and I had friends who were single and he was still around. They're like, do you mind? I'm like, I don't mind at all. Enter at your own risk. Go for it. And I just did not care. Obviously, nothing worked out. And I feel bad for him in a way, like that he's probably in his mid-40s by now and can't get out of his own way. So if you have a Kevin, let him go. Let him go. Move on. Be happy. And get excited for what's ahead. Get excited. Because this guy, he is not for you. He is not for you. And you are worth so much more than this. You are worth having a man who looks at you and says, I cannot believe that you exist. And I cannot believe that you chose me. I can't believe it. I will do anything in my power to keep you. I will do anything to make you happy. That is what you deserve. But you got to let go of this guy first. All right, everyone. I hope this episode was helpful. Please share your feedback. Leave comments. Leave reviews. Leave reviews if they're nice, right? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Please email me, Sabrina@SabrinaBendori.com. Send your thoughts, your questions. I would love to hear from you. All right. I will see you next week. Bye.